Hello and welcome to Oulton Park, the place host to round 2 of the 2019 Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. We kicked things off in fine fashion last time out at a sunny Snetterton, where 3 of the pre-season title favourites, Aidan Hills, Jack Harding and Luke Herbert, shared the wings amongst themselves. This weekend, Aidan is on pole position at the circuit where he took his first ever victory last season. Can he do it again? Well, it's almost time to find out. Race 1 is just moments away. We've had 3 great races already at Snetterton. What will Oulton Park have in store for us? Well, for Aidan Hills, it's a pole position. Luke Herbert alongside him, though. Steve Roberts with a return to form. He's third alongside Jack Harding. Then Will Stacey and Gary Townsend. Will Stevenson and Nick Rutter on the fourth row. Andrew Fletcher and Bradley Kent next. Then Jack Sycamore and David Henderson. Whilst George Grant and Christopher Richardson round out the field. So the first of 3 races here at Oulton Park, then 3 races in a day as well. So will the drivers maybe err on the side of caution a bit more in this first race, knowing that there's not much repair time between the 3 races today. They've already qualified. It's a full-on day of action here at Oulton Park, and this should be a full-on race full of action as well. The red lights go on. Aidan Hills on the left, Luke Herbert on the right. Who will lead into Old Hall Corner? Let's find out. The lights go out. Away we go. The start is always vital, especially here at Oulton Park, where in theory it's difficult to overtake. Luke Herbert's got his nose in front already, but Aidan Hills will surely fight back on the inside line. Wheel to wheel for the race lead already. Hills is sideways. Herbert's on the grass though. Oh, and behind, around goes David Henderson and Nick Rutter as well, in some spectacular uniform spinning down the avenue. They both, though, avoid any serious contact with anything and will rejoin. So Hills leads the way then. He's managed to find a way back ahead of Herbert, who's down to second. Harding is third. So the 3 H's once again have got themselves to the head of the order. Steve Roberts is 4th. Will Stacey there in 5th place going with them as well. And this should be a really entertaining battle at the front of the field. Aidan Hills in the race lead will be trying to break away if he can. But we saw this last year when he took that debut victory at Oulton Park. He had to get his elbows out pretty much from start to finish to fend off his teammate Luke Herbert. And I think we're in for much the same sort of story today, because Luke is very much going with him in the early stages. Harding and Roberts next in line behind as they hammer the curbs, even on cold tyres, through the Britain chicane. You can gain quite a lot of track time from using the curbs around here, but you do risk taking a toll on your car. If you really hammer them, you can damage suspension, wheels, drive shafts. You've got to be a bit careful, but there's a lot of lap time to be found. There is Will Stevenson turning his way through the Britain chicane. Will had a bit of an up and down day last time out at Snetterton, a 12th and non-finish, and then 4th from the back of the grid to 6th in race 3. He'll be hoping for more of the same here today. So back across the start-finish line goes Aidan Hills, then leading the way. Luke Herbert right with him. He looks to the inside line at Old Hall. Can't quite do it though. Harding there sitting in line in 3rd, and this fascinating battle between these 3 is set to continue, I think, all season long. But now throw into the mix Steve Roberts, who was not particularly happy after particularly his race 3 non-finish at Snetterton. He'd had a decent day until then, a pair of 4th place finishes, but was bemoaning the fact that he didn't have quite as much speed as he'd like out of that car. And then was particularly grumpy after the non-finish, but he's right back to form here and is escaping with the leading 3. They're dropping Will Stacey slightly now in 5th position, and then it's a big gap back to, I think, Gary Townsend, who's still 6th. Through the shell hairpin then. Aidan Hills continuing to try and break away here. There is Gary Townsend, who runs wide in 6th position. Will Stevenson, I don't think he's quite close enough to take advantage. Then it's Bradley Kent. Those 3 were very evenly matched in qualifying as well. And so too were these 4, really. The top 4 in qualifying were separated by just 4/10 of a second. So very, very close indeed. Sorry, top 3 separated by 4/10 of a second. Jack Harding was actually a further 4/10 back, but he seems to have found something between qualifying this morning and this opening race, because the car is looking quick. And a few overheating issues at Snetterton did Jack Harding, which hopefully he will have got to the bottom of for this weekend. Aidan Hills, though, out in the front of the pack, probably doesn't need to worry too much about overheating. He heads out of Druids underneath the circuit access bridge. His main priority now is certainly not overheating. It is Luke Herbert, who is right behind him. He's challenging for the race lead, and behind them, Steve Roberts challenging Jack Harding for 3rd. Bit of a headbutt there from Harding to Hills as he carries more speed through Lodge Corner. Didn't really help him, though. If anything, he is slower off the corner as a result of that loss of momentum. And Jack Harding tries to get up the inside, but Luke Herbert is always going to move over to the inside to defend, and that backs Harding into Steve Roberts. This is the fascinating nature of this close quarters racing. Herbert sideways again there over the curves, but when you get a group of cars together like this, If you go for a move, you can end up losing ground. It holds people up. If one driver starts defending, it can possibly allow another car to escape, and that is what's happening here. Look, Herbert, only a couple of defensive, well, only really one corner of defending into Old Hall Corner, and look at the gap that it's given Aiden Hills, because these three are ever closer together and becoming ever more preoccupied with each other. And there you see Aiden Hills starting now to scarper off into the distance. He needs to try and put his foot down now. This is likely to be one of his fastest laps of the race as he tries to break the toe. Once you break that slipstream, it can be hard sometimes for the chasing back to reel you back in. Out of shell. Steve Roberts arguably the quickest out of that corner on that occasion, but there's nowhere to go really. It's single file through here, through the British chicane. Look at the amount of curb they take. It is a miracle that the suspension lasts on these cars, but they're well engineered. Whoops, that was a mistake though from Steve Roberts. Got a bit sideways under acceleration out of Britain's and then possibly missed a gear, because look at the time that he's lost to the three in front and to Will Stacey behind him, who's now right back with him. So the top three therefore now have a bit more breathing room over the fired up Steve Roberts, who I think is still fourth, but only just. Across the start-finish line then, Aiden Hills, your race leader, and yes, it's a new fastest lap of the race that time around, so Aiden Hills is trying to put his foot down, he is trying to pull away from the cars behind. Steve Roberts not yet escaping again from Will Stacey, who is sort of on the verge, isn't he, of becoming one of the real heavy hitters in this championship. Had he been able to complete the full season last year, I'm pretty certain that Will Stacey would have had a few race victories by now. As it is, he has just that one from Silverstone just over 12 months ago. Had to miss most of the middle portion of last year whilst Rob Boston Racing built him a new car, and now in that new car he's finally starting to find his feet. There's Will Stevenson continuing his dice with Gary Townsend. Aiden Hills slides his way through Island Bend. Herbert likewise still trying to escape from Harding behind and not really succeeding in doing so just yet. There are Roberts and Will Stacey. Neither of them though looking particularly likely at this rate to mix it with the big three for a podium place. Harding there in third place. There you can see the gap back to Steve Roberts, who's next in line. Steve Roberts, going into this race though, is chasing down podium finishes if he can get them. It's going to be easier said than done though, I think, at this rate. Right now, he is defending more than attacking, I would say. This is the thing with the slipstream in these cars. Will Stacey hasn't really been quite as quick as Steve Roberts so far this weekend, but give him a slipstream and he's able to stay right with him. Out of Druids then, and back with the leading trio, who are now spreading themselves out a bit more. It looks as though Luke Herbert is getting away from Jack Harding in third. Does that mean that he's catching Aiden Hills in the race lead though? Perhaps fractionally, not quite fully within slipstreaming range just yet, but he is closing in, I think. Boston Racing having a good race here, aren't they? 4 cars inside the top 5, with the interloper being Jack Harding and the AK Automotive car in third position. He doesn't quite seem to be able to live with the leader's pace right now. So are we about to see a resumption of the battle that we saw in the early stages of this race, and indeed in race 3 here last year between Aiden Hills and Luke Herbert for a victory at Oulton Park, I wonder? Luke Herbert has a strong record here at Oulton Park. He's won all 3 races in the same day here in the past, and certainly knows his way around this circuit. Very experienced racer is Luke, one of the most experienced drivers in the field. Townsend and Will Stevenson continuing their, well, I was about to say private battle. It's not really a private battle anymore, though, is it? Because Patrick Fletcher, the black and red car, is closing in and he's bringing Bradley Kent with him. Patrick Fletcher really caught many people's attention last time out at Snetterton in his debut in the championship. There he is, the number 29 car. Didn't qualify so strongly this weekend, down in 9th place, but he's racing his way up the order now slightly. He's into 8th and is within touching distance realistically of a top 6 finish again. He was very consistent last time out as well, 2 5th places, and then unfortunately a non-finish in the final race. But Fletcher, who was a former front runner in front-wheel drive machinery, particularly Renault Clios, is now really acquitting himself well to these rear-wheel drive lightweight sports cars. And he's trying now to find a way past Will Stevenson if he can. And then Gary Townsend, who's not far up the road either. Leaders back out of Druids, lead gap not visibly coming down hugely this time. The gap that is going up though is the one between 4th and 5th. I think Will Stacey's had a moment somewhere as he's dropped away slightly now from Steve Roberts. I wonder whether or not Steve can latch himself back onto the tail of Jack Harding in front. I say this lead gap hadn't really come down. I think it has in the last sector. Look at that. Yeah, Herbert is now definitely within slipstreaming range. So as we move into the second half of the race, we could have a real battle on our hands for the race lead. These 4 couldn't get much close together. Townsend, Stevenson, Fletcher and Kent are virtually pushing each other around the Oulton Park circuit now. As they cross the start-finish line, the fight for 6th place looks set to further intensify. Is Will Stevenson going to have a go up the inside at Old Hall? The answer is no. AK Automotive car, the second AK Automotive car in the race of Gary Townsend, hanging on to this 6th position valiantly. Gary, who had a best finish of 7th place last time out at Snetterton. Twice he finished 7th, in fact, races 2 and 3, and 8th in race 1. So another fairly consistent day, but he's going stronger here this time around. And a mistake for the race leader. Aidan Hills locks the rear brakes at Shell and leaves the door wide open for Luke Herbert, who needed no second invitation. He nudges Aidan Hill out over the curb on the exit of the corner for good measure. And Luke Herbert, out of absolutely nowhere, has taken the race lead away. We said that he was catching Aidan, and I wonder whether or not that maybe applied a bit too much pressure to Aidan for his liking, and he made the mistake, and Herbert has gone through, and not only has it allowed Herbert into the race lead, but now it's 3 for the lead again, because Jack Harding is right with them too. So I said that it was game on for the race lead. It really is, as Aidan Hills now tries to carry as much speed into his lops as possible. He's a bit fired up, but he needs to be careful that he doesn't let this red mist maybe force him into another mistake. A win is still within reach, but at the very least he needs to try and rack up these podium finishes that he was so good at doing last year. Ironically, he's the only one of these 3 that hasn't had a full set of podiums from Snetterton, because he had that moment in race 3 which dropped him down to an eventual 4th place finishing position, whereas Herbert and Harding were on the podium in all 3 encounters. That's why they have the edge in the championship. But look at how close it is as they all swerve towards the pit wall. Herbert trying to defend. Hills goes to the outside line. Wants to be careful not to leave the door open though for Jack Harding. Tries the cut back sideways for Herbert. That will open the door down to Cascades for Aidan Hills. But he's on the wrong side of the road. Surely the right hand side of the road will be the outside for Cascades. But he's almost made the move stick already. Can he close the door? No. Luke Herbert throws it back up the inside. Sideways. They almost lean on each other again. And Jack Harding gets the run on the pair of them down the Lakeside Straight. He's into second. He's going for the race lead again, and Aidan Hills is not out of it either. Side by side through Island Bend. That's such a fast corner. And again, they're trading paint. Beautiful racing, but Herbert's got the inside line again. Sideways again he is, though. All 3 of them could end up in the fence at this rate. This is super close racing. Over the grass goes Harding. Herbert retakes the lead, and Hills back into second place. So there you go. All of that action, and nothing changed. It's still the same order, but that was some of the best side-by-side racing you will ever see. The tiniest bits of contact, the tiniest bits of sideways action, and it was enough to create some absolutely phenomenal racing. Aidan Hills, though, is right back on the attack again here. He's in the toe, pulls to the outside, pulls to the inside, goes for the race lead. He locks up, though. Straight on he will go. He was never going to get the car stopped, and will that now cost him second place again? He rejoins third. Jack Harding will pop back up the inside, and now Steve Roberts is coming into play as well. 4 cars for the race lead as they exit Druids once again into the closing stages of a race that I do not want to end. This is phenomenal racing between all 4 of them. More contact between Hills and Harding, and once again Aidan Hills is the big loser because Steve Roberts seizes the opportunity, dives to the inside, goes third, and now thinks about going second because he's right on the tail of Jack Harding. Steve Roberts really coming on strong in the second half of the race. Oh, not 3 abreast into Old Hall Corner. That certainly won't work. It's difficult enough to go side by side through here without contact, as Steve Roberts realises he gets elbowed out over the curbs, and as soon as he gained that 3rd position in trying to take second place from Jack Harding, he lost it again. Hills is back onto the podium. It's a job to keep up with this, isn't it? Absolutely incredible action here, and they say you can't overtake at Oulton Park. Well, clearly nobody told the MX-5 SuperCup field, because not only in this race, but every year they arrive here at Oulton Park and put on a heck of a show. Aidan Hills goes right around the outside of Jack Harding at the Island Bend. He had a better exit from Cascades, I think, used the slipstream to good effect, but then he's sideways again. That's almost an action replay of his moment from a few laps ago, but he's off properly this time into the barriers. Aidan Hills throws away a podium finish, and that is an absolute disaster for the man who was so consistent with those podium finishes last year, but he spins himself into the barriers. He will rejoin with a bent car and a long way behind the leading contenders, and he will be kicking himself for that, because that was, you can't really say an unforced error. He was under immense pressure there, but he didn't need to make that mistake. It looks like the rear of the car was maybe a bit loose through Shell. He'd already had one moment there that he did well to save. On that occasion, though, he was not so lucky. So that means that Luke Herbert, your race leader, now has a decent advantage over this fight for second place between Jack Harding, Steve Roberts, and now joining in the fun is Will Stacey, who could yet get himself his second podium in as many race meetings. Underneath the bridge they come, down towards Lodge Corner. Luke Herbert is pulling away. Jack Harding is certainly not going to be catching him at this rate because he's having to defend his second place. Roberts goes to the outside, and that leaves the door open for his teammate Will Stacey to dive up the inside. Wheel to wheel on the exit of the corner. Roberts, though, has got the slipstream from Jack Harding's number 43 car in front of him, and I think should be able to hang on. Yes, he can, but what can he do about Harding? He looks a bit quicker at this stage. He's looking back to the inside line again, not giving Jack Harding a moment to breathe, not giving me a moment to breathe either. Will Stacey all over the grass, bounces his way back on. If that's not exceeding track limits, I don't know what is, but I also don't really think it gained him any sort of advantage there. If anything, he lost a bit of ground to the two cars in front. Right, deep breath everyone, we've still got another lap or so of this to go. Out of Cascades, down the Lakeside Straight. Steve Roberts right on the rear bumper of Jack Harding, pulls out of the slipstream, goes to the right-hand side of the road, but didn't have quite enough momentum to complete that around the outside move that we saw Aidan Hills very briefly make stick a lap ago. Hills has rejoined, by the way, and still in 5th position, remarkably, despite the off that he had. They were so far ahead of anybody else that actually he's been able to hang on to a top 5 position for the time being, and should, as long as the car's not too badly damaged, be able to hang on to that to the flag. Back over Hilltop once again, and Steve Roberts, who is already back onto the podium now, looking to try and get one step higher. Can't quite do it into his lops. He's looking to the inside, looking to the outside. He looks, as I said, a bit quicker than Harding at this rate, but just can't quite prise the door open. Steve will be well aware, though, that with dropped scores, he can kind of forget about that non-finish he had at Snetterton. 2 4th places from the first 2 races and a possible 3rd place here is a good points haul early in the season. And so he doesn't really need to go taking too many risks here, but the racer in Steve will be telling him to go for it, to push for 2nd place. And whilst Jack Harding's sort of on the ropes here, defending so heavily, there's every chance that he could do it. Will Stacey's wide again, and he is now starting to run the risk of getting a penalty for exceeding track limits as we go on to the final lap of what has been a sensational opening race of the day, and it's not over yet. The fight for 2nd place continuing. Jack Harding defending hard through Old Hall Corner. Lots of drivers seem to be struggling with oversteer through some of the high-speed corners. We've seen it from Herbert, Hills, and Jack Harding getting sideways at times as well. But so far, so good for Jack, who is hanging on to this 2nd position. He came into this race in 2nd place in the championship, though, 6 points behind Luke Herbert. He's set to lose 2 more points in this race, and that's if he hangs on to 2nd place. Steve Roberts in 3rd is doing everything he can to make sure that doesn't happen, and you can't count Will Stacey out yet either. Aidan Hills, by the way, has set the fastest lap earlier on, and he's held on to it so far, so if all else fails, he will at least get a 5th place finish with the 2 points for fastest lap, but he's still going to lose ground in the early championship race to some of his real championship rivals, you have to suspect. Luke Herbert the leader, Jack Harding 2nd, and Steve Roberts definitely championship material this year if he could just get a bit better luck, really. He was pretty much luckless all year last year. He had the odd race where things went well, and then almost as quickly as it started to go right for him, it seemed to go wrong. Meanwhile, for Luke Herbert, there is one more challenge to overhaul here. His Rob Boston Racing teammate, Nick Rutter, is not exactly leaping out of his way as he goes a lap down. Now I think he's finally negotiated the orange machine, and Luke Herbert is now only 1 corner away from his 2nd victory of the season, and this will be career win number 14 to move to within 1 victory of the all-time record. It's side by side for 2nd place, though, as Steve Roberts has gone around the outside at Druids to try and take 2nd place away. Can't do it into Lodge. He gives Jack Harding a nerf through the apex of the corner, and it will be a sprint to the checkered flag, which is taken first by Luke Herbert, his 2nd victory of the season, to extend his championship lead. For 2nd, it's very close indeed, but Jack Harding holds on by the skin of his teeth from Steve Roberts 3rd, Will Stacey 4th, and Aidan Hills, some way back, will come home 5th. Well, a breathless opening encounter here at Oulton Park. Herbert takes the victory by 4.2 seconds in the end over Harding, Roberts, Stacey, and a disappointed Aidan Hills. Patrick Fletcher got 6th in the end, ahead of Will Stevenson and Gary Townsend. Then Bradley Kent and Jack Sycamore. David Henderson, Chris Richardson and Nick Rutter round out the finishers, whilst George Grant was the only non-finisher from the opening race of the day. Luke Herbert, congratulations, 2nd victory of the season. There's no such thing as an easy victory in this championship, and my word, that wasn't easy.
No, I mean, Aidan did the crucial thing this weekend to get pole. You know, if you can get pole and get off at the start, then it's effectively your race. The only thing that's going to stop you is mistakes. Unfortunately, Aidan got track limits warning 4 laps in, and I know from personal experience, it plays with your head. So if he hadn't got that, he'd have driven away from me. But the fact that he got track limit, you know, he slowed down a bit. I caught him, and then I think the pressure of me being on him just made a slight mistake into the hairpin. I think he looked at his rear wheels, and that was it. I was up the inside. That little battle got everyone else with us. and then fortunately for me, they were all battling behind, so it just gave me that break to get out the toe. But yeah, you know, any of us could have won it then. It was just, you know, it was just qualifying position that helped the scenario.
And it's looking like being one of those years, isn't it, where anyone could win. There are a good 4 or 5 of you who are legitimate contenders.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a good start, 2 wins in 2 seconds, 2 fast snaps. The only reason that is qualifying. You know, we had a good qualifying at Snetterton, we had a second, which got us into lead. We had a good qualifying here, and yeah, you know, I've got the experience to be able to win races. I try not to get too hot-headed, because you know, you win championships by staying on the track, getting your first, getting your seconds, getting your thirds, getting your fourths. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. You know, it's great fun. So yeah, race 2.
Well, Jack Harding, second place then, back on the podium again. This is at the moment an unbroken run of podium, so you've got to be happy with that.
Yeah, it's always good to get a podium. It's early days in the championship, so there's a long way to go. I mean, it's nice to get wins, but it's not the end of the world at this stage. So just collecting points. But yeah, we're just struggling. Straight line speed. After about 2 or 3 laps, it happened at Snetterton. When I'm in people's dirty air, it's just literally overheating the engine, and we're losing loads of power. And I'm just a sitting duck. Whereas in the last race at Snetterton last time, I was in the lead on my own, and I was fine. So we just need to try and resolve that. We've tried a couple of things, but we're still losing power. So yeah, to salvage second was good.
Well, exactly, all things considered, not a bad result, and the fight out there was magnificent to watch. Were you enjoying it, or was it stressing you out?
A little bit stressing me out. I mean, it was at one point, I think me and Steve came to like an almost stop at the chicane. It's not really an overtaking place, but Steve just happened to be there, and we were just like, right, we'll just do our best here. But yeah, no, it was all right. Frustrating, a bit of damage on the car, but you know, most of us all got on cleanly anyway. So great results. Massive thanks to Yorkshire Trade and AK, and hopefully we'll sort the car out for later on.
Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Steve Roberts, congratulations. Great to see you back on the podium. You're a lot happier now than when we last spoke at Snetterton, that's for sure.
Yeah, we struggled for a little bit of pace at Snetterton. So yeah, we're back on it here. I'm a little bit happier, but not as happy as I won't be until I'm on that top step. So yeah, I've got to start banking the points, because this year we came back to try and have a go at the championship, which is exactly what the aim is. So
the fight out there was fantastic to watch, and you were very much part of it, particularly through the second half of the race. And according to Jack, you were getting stuck in.
Yeah, we were getting stuck in. Hopefully he thought it was all fair. We tried some ambitious moves, because it's so hard to pass around here. Mazda is so close, and we're so evenly matched. You've got to take a few risks, calculated risks obviously, but I tried an adventurous move around the outside of Druids, which was fun, and I wouldn't do it unless I had a driver like Jack alongside me, so all merits to him.
2 more races to go then. You'll be starting towards the sharp end again, hopefully for both of them. What are your thoughts for the rest of the day?
Yeah, well, I'm start P2, so try and get out front and get my head down is the plan.
Sounds like a good one. Right, well, best of luck.
Great, thank you.